Hi everyone, Chris from SABIAN here at the amazing Sweetwater Music Campus in Indiana for a conversation with my dear friend and master drummer, Todd Sucherman.
Thank you,
Welcome
man.
to Sweetwater.
It's great to be here.
What a place, huh?
It's big.
It's amazing the music products industry can, support and flourish with this many people in a college-sized campus. But
It is. It's
I love it.
It's a city here, and it's amazing, and it's always great when I'm here.
It's great to work with. Well, thanks for being here with us today. I wanted you to kind of reflect on 30 years next year with STYX. Like, what do you think about when you think back first joining that band and how far you've come?
Well, the funny thing is, the very first tour that I did in '96, I thought it was going to be a summer fling. And when I said goodbye to them at the end of the tour, I literally thought I'd never see any of those people again. So it's kind of funny that a summer fling turned into, the better part of the last 30 years of my life.
You must have left an impression. Did it feel that way after that? I mean, obviously not if you thought you weren't getting a call back.
Well, I literally thought it was one and done.
Another
and that
gig.
was it. 72 shows. And, there's a story I tell, actually. It's as soon as the tour was over, I was back doing sessions and playing gigs and playing weddings and stuff like that. And it was the week after we ended at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, and that was my dream venue to play. And it was the last show 72, was recorded and filmed for a live record and a live DVD. Drove home. The very next Saturday, I'm playing a wedding at a place called the Café La Cave up the street on
Rosemont
Manheim
Horizon.
Road. Yeah, up the street. And I loaded in my gear and I just went out, and Metallica was playing that night. And I was watching the cars file in to the Rosemont Horizon, and I thought, isn't showbiz funny? Last week, I was there, and now I'm here. And it's like, hey Todd, it's the daddy-daughter dance, But I was happy to be working. I was happy to be playing a gig and playing with good musicians. But that's
showbiz.
That's showbiz indeed.
Well, it must have been a fulfilling gig that, flourished into what it has today.
Well, I was fortunate to end up with a band that had already done the legwork. And I sort of waltzed into a band that sold, 50 million records. So it was nice to kind of ride their coattails for the last 30 years and hopefully become a part of that machine. And certainly with the records that I've performed on with those guys. But it starts really from the top down. That they're great people. They're great to work for. They're great musicians, and they earnestly try to be better and better. And they leave it on the stage every night, whether we're playing at a field in Nebraska or we're playing in New York City. The people in Nebraska deserve the same show that the people in New York get. So that sort of leadership mentality from the top down permeates through the whole organization. So everything's left on the stage every night.
Right. Well, speaking of latest records, I mean, I told you last night, A Circling From Above is just one of my favorite records of the year. All of your influences, the band's influences, seem to be set out like a buffet and just a beautiful spread that you can hear so much of what you guys drew from The Who and Queen and the Beatles and all this fantastic stuff. Like, I mean, even Broadway. Like, I felt like I watched Hamilton after I finished listening to that record. Like,
there's a lot of varied influences that came out on this particular record, and I've also heard Alan Parsons and Jellyfish, and it's interesting to hear what people hear in it, but it's. When you hear a composition and you hear a certain set of chord changes, or then you hear a melody line over there, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? So if something sounds like Queen, well, I'm going to think a little bit like Roger Taylor, or, if it has an ELO thing or a Jellyfish, like, we're happy to wear those influences on our sleeves. And I think the fact that we can pull off material that tips the proverbial hat to these bands that meant a lot to us, while still retaining who we are. I think we were successful in cooking that meal and delivering it.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply anything sounded derivative. I just mean that it sounds like
Hey,
you
man,
guys
why you
with
gotta-
so much great stuff is all I think when I hear that record is just I listened to it over and over, and the drum sounds are fabulous. Like, you recorded it at Blackbird?
We recorded it at Blackbird, and you know, it was still given a little bit of a vintage treatment because we used all vintage mics, and we went through old Neve. I think that was the Neve that Steely Dan did Asia on,
Oh, wow.
I think. Or someone lied to me there, but I think that's what it was. So, everything that we used, it was all real analog stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, the Cymbals have been out for a while now, doing great. Did you happen to use any of those on the new record?
I did. I used the prototypes of the AA Spotlights right before the final version.
Okay.
Because that's what I had at the time, and we had one more round to go to finalize it. But they excelled, and they were just shining in the studio and live. You know, this whole past summer tour, there was about 5 or 6 shows in a row where my guests all asked, "What were those crash cymbals?" And in 30 years, I've never had that before. You know, I say, "Hey, this sounds great," or like, "Yeah, the sound of the tonight was a little, whatever." But I've never had so many compliments on the cymbals. And Nick Collins was out at a show, and that was the first thing he asked me was, "What were those crashes?"
Glad
Pretty
to
cool.
hear it. Well, that's proof, if I've ever heard any, that Spotlight works in the studio then too, just as well as it does on the stage.
Unequivocally, yeah.
Yeah, great, fantastic. So I got to ask you about working with Brian Wilson, this genius, Pet Sounds and all the Beach Boys stuff. I mean, Pet Sounds in particular for me is one of the greatest albums from Desert Island album. What was it like working with Brian?
There's a 20-car pileup in my head right now because
Yeah.
there's so many things I want to say. I mean, to have been caught up in his orbit, it was nothing short of spectacular. And he hears everything, and he knows exactly what he wants. And there's 2 instances that always come to mind that, when someone gives you an idea and it goes against the grain of what you are thinking for a particular piece of music, I would always remind myself, well, this is Brian Wilson telling me this, and I remember there was a song called City Blues. Eric Clapton played on that. And he goes, from the talk back, he goes, "All right, Todd, listen, when you get to the end, I want you to ride on the floor tom for 8 bars. And then I want you to stop, and I want you to go to the ride cymbal for 8 bars. And then stop that, and then go back to the floor tom, and then stop that, and then go back to the ride cymbal." And I'm thinking, what? Why would I? All right, let's give the man what he wants. And I played that, and wouldn't you know, it had its own charm. It became a thing.
So it wasn't the beginning of a bunch of layers or anything. It's just what that part needed.
I mean, that sounded like schizophrenic drumming to me. To establish a piece of music riding on a floor tom, then go to the ride cymbal, then going back to the floor tom. Mm-hmm. But it became a thing. And he did another idea, another similar story when we were doing the reimagined Gershwin record. And that record was really cool because we did it live with a big rhythm section, no click track, just outlines of charts, and he would sculpt ideas, and we just keep playing things until he was happy with it.
So were you essentially conducting the session then, just by playing, or was there somebody? Okay,
Brian was, and then a guy, Paul Von Martens, was the musical director who'd written the charts. But we were doing Summertime, and The Living Is Easy, traditional jazz brushes, and when it got later in the song, Brian again goes, "All right, Todd, listen, when you get to bar, whatever it is, bar 52, he goes, I want you to drop the brushes, grab the sticks, and I want you to go bam, 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 as hard as you can, on both floor toms, and then go to the right cymbal." And I'm thinking, did he just lose his mind here? Or why would I play quarter notes like a ape in this jazz standard? And so, okay, so I did that, and then he wrote in like a key change, and he already heard strings glissando, glissando, and a key change and with vocal harmonies. So he already was formulating this in his head, and just didn't tell the rest of us. We had to make the charcoal sketch and bring that into Technicolor. And it's one of the greatest moments on that record, and he even mentioned that moment in his autobiography.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be a part of that. But Brian was one of the sweetest human beings, not a mean or bad bone in his body. Was he a peculiar character? Yes, but he was also, that's one of the things that made him funny, and sometimes unintentionally funny. So it was a great joy to work with him, and it was always, it was never dull. Mm-hmm. It was always interesting. It was always musically challenging, and to play. I mean, is there a better song in the universe than God Only Knows?
No.
To have played that with him as many times as I did is just, pinch me.
Yeah. So moving on to your solo effort then, the album Last Flight Home, like did you took a lot of what you learned from Brian and crafting that record?
There's definitely a couple of moments where the harmonies were definitely inspired.
Yeah.
But between Beach Boys and the Beatles. But yeah, and working with J.K. Harrison, who was an old friend from the old days, he's a master at understanding whatever musical genre that needs to be dealt with.
Okay.
And so to be able to work on that material with him, as someone I've known for so long, where I could suck in front of him and not be embarrassed, and have him, produce me and show me the way how to do it, because it never would have been done without him.
Yeah, of course. So it's very different from STYX. I'm curious, are you drawing from the same influences as a songwriter and singer that you do as a drummer?
Yeah, I would say so, because I love the same stuff, which is a giant bag of things. But obviously, I gravitate towards particular things. Well, when I started this, J.K. was he'd been hounding me for a bunch of years, saying, "Hey, we should do a record." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "We should do your record." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, you sing," and I'm like, "Hey, thank you. That's very sweet that you think that I can do that, but you're insane." And he just hit me at a certain time in 2019 where I was going to have a couple days off and a couple nights off. I was in LA for like a week. And he goes, "Look, let's just get together and write something, see what happens." And the first thing we did was the song Last Flight Home. And it was one of those moments where it happened within a half hour. And a lot of times the best songs just fall out of the sky in your lap. Yeah. And it was like, ooh, songwriting's fun, because it came in that moment so easily, as opposed to the, laboriously working and toiling over something for weeks and months and years. And then I thought, okay, maybe we're going to do this. And in the middle of beginning this project, which I wasn't fully sure that I was going to really see this to the finish line and actually release it. I just thought maybe this would be a nice little musical exercise to do in a learning experience. But I connected with Nick Collins in 2019, and I got to meet Phil for the first time and tell him how important it was to me as a drummer and as a singer and a songwriter and just my whole musical life. And he was just beautiful. Gave us 10 minutes, 90 minutes before the show. I don't see my mom 90 minutes before the show, you know what I mean? So he's out there, and it was just so lovely. And my brother and I walked away just floating on air because, I met one of the unmeetables, like that's the A-list celebrity. And his story is so incredible that it'd be like when Peter Gabriel left Genesis, they were left for dead. Right? And it's like the drummer's like, well, I'll give it a go. It'd be like if Larry Mullen Jr. became the new singer of U2, and the next U2 record with him is their biggest record ever, and it's a masterpiece. So just meeting Phil inspired me to go, you know what? I'm terrified of this, and that's telling me that's where I need to be. I don't want to do a fusion record full of drum solos, and maybe I'll do that one day. But at that time, to me, writing good songs, good chords, good lyrics, good melodies, and standing behind every second of that. That's way harder than blowing chops over a vamp.
So was Todd, the songwriter, band leader, producer, hard on his drummer, also known Todd?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and also, it was a great learning experience because there's one song called Ad Lib Everything, it was in 6/8, and I thought, oh, there's room for a couple little fun drum things in here. And I recorded the drums last. We had like just demo drums when we were doing everything. And when I went to record that song and I went to play the fills in between the lines of the chorus where I thought there's room for little comments, it didn't work. It was like, as the guy's telling a story and drum fill, and back to me, and then drum fill. It broke up the flow. And sometimes you just, that works. You know, you don't need to cure cancer with every drum fill. Just, and that's all it needed. And then I started thinking, oh no, am I doing that to other people? You know, because even after all these years, every now and then, you know, the ego of the drummer wants to stick its head in the sunshine for a little moment every now and then. But I just thought, you know, it worked better with the flow of the music and the story that was being told if I'm just totally supportive and I don't take that step into the spotlight, even for one bar. Just keep it going.
So does that mean you're a different drummer and musician than you were, say, when you made Methods and Mechanics?
100%.
Yeah?
100%.
I mean, I think it still holds a lot of value. It's sort of become like the go-to piece for technique and musicality.
Well, thank you. One of the benefits to growing older is having the benefit of more experience. And sometimes I used to think of some drummers were like, oh, they don't play as fiery as they used to when they were young. And is it age? I think it gets to the point where it's just, I'm done doing that. And I don't feel I have anything to prove. I just want to play well. And sometimes the simple thing is the right thing. Now, I still love chops, and I still love, you know, playing busily, and I do like drum fireworks. But also, when I go back and listen to things that I've recorded, sometimes the fills that give me the most satisfaction and put a smile on my face are the like that was perfect. Or I was thinking of Ringo, or I was thinking of something like that, and that spirit was successfully put forth on that piece of music, and it didn't eat a, you know, it didn't need to be that flowery. So a lot of times the simplest things give me the greatest satisfaction.
Are these the kind of things you're sharing in your masterclasses?
No, they have to find that out themselves. No, well, it's just a matter of being your true, authentic self, and making the music happen before making something good for you. You know, it's something I do tell the attendees at the master classes, especially the younger drummers, that if hopefully you're playing with musicians that are older than you, that have more experience. Ask them, what can I do to make this gig better for you? Because then they'll see that you honestly want to learn. If they think for any reason that you think you're a hot shot and you know everything, or this wedding gig is beneath me, or something like that, you know, if you go to them and you want to learn, and you ask them a question like that, you're going to have a mentor. You're going to have someone take you under your arm or say, you know what, when you play swing time, the bass drum is too much. You know, you're going to learn something. Someone's going to give you an honest answer.
Speaking of your master classes, is there a secret to your fluid playing with so much power, seeing as how you don't break a lot of cymbals, and you share all these videos? If people haven't been to a STYX show, they see the videos of you playing a big rock show, and you didn't break any crashes on this last summer tour.
No. You know, I think as I get older, I'm playing smarter. It doesn't mean that I'm playing any less density, but just when I crash cymbals, generally there's always a little swipe at the end. I'm not going straight in and just murdering the cymbal with a straight line. So when I'm playing, whether it's this way, a glance that way, or a glance this way, there's always a glancing blow at the end, because not only does that save your cymbals, but it sounds better because you're pulling the sound out of the cymbals as opposed to just making them scream.
Gotcha.
You know, and drums and cymbals will only get so loud. You know, I learned a long time ago, like in a recording studio, that the harder you play, the smaller your drums are going to sound. So if you're looking for a bigger sound, just pull back on your density a little bit. Now, someone might say, well, what about so? Oh, I don't care about what about. Like if you're going to mention a drummer that maybe doesn't mean anything to me, I don't want to sound like that. That might be your guy, and that's fine. It's a big world. It's a big buffet. A lot of music. A lot of players. But for what I like to hear is I like to pull the sound out of the drums, pull the sound out of the cymbals, instead of playing them directly into the floor.
All right, so let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. Your snare drum collection.
That's what everyone wants to talk about?
Which one's your favorite?
Okay. Oh, it's impossible. It's like...
I know.
It's impossible.
But you have to answer which one you've recorded with the most. Ooh. Then we'll know. It's not a fair question because lately, we know about the big switch. And we'll get to your favorite, but which one have you recorded with the most?
It's really hard to say. There's two contenders for that are in the non-Sonar collection, or maybe three. Let's say no, there's four. No, the Pete Stambridge Emperor, and that was my signature drum.
There is 150, right? Is that about the total of snare drums you have?
Well, it's just shy of 150.
Okay. So the Stambridge, sorry.
The Stambridge, a lot of times if someone wants like a Ludwig Black Beauty thing, I won't use my Ludwig Black Beauties. I'll pull out the Donette Titanium. Mm-hmm. So that's another that's recorded a lot. And the Ebenor Noranda Copper is one that is... it's up there in the tops.
I don't remember that one. I'll have to look it up. I mean, it's cool. You have all of those listed on your website, so people can. Well,
my website is in dire need of overhaul, and hopefully by the time that this is out there, that I would have added more content gear-wise. But right now I'm in total Sonar madness, and I just got Mark Brzezicki's Horst Link signature steel and ebony over beech snare drums. I got a couple of the one-of-the-kinds that I got from various drum shops, and so I'm very much steeped in Sonar land at the moment.
Awesome. So what's your go-to snare in the studio and stage today?
Live, I'm using 5.5 by 14 heavy beech that matches the kit with the African marble on the inside and out, and that thing is a beast. It's very easy to kind of think, I don't want a matching snare drum. You want to pull in, one of the big guns for that. But this is a big gun. This drum is bonkers, and everyone in the crew when we switched over, everyone heard the difference in everything. And the snare drum, Jeff Hines, who's our co-production manager and keyboard tech, he's got an SQ2 kit.
Yeah. And
he was like, that snare drum is just a flipping cannon. It's nuts.
I would have never guessed 5.5, honestly, because you're sort of known for, like a lot of our favorite drummers have distinctive snare sounds, and I think you coined the phrase, the fudge brick.
The fudge brick.
I wouldn't have thought 5.5.
And the baseball bat and the birthday cake. That's another good one. I think I owe that one to Bobby McIntyre. The funny thing is with the double bass setup, it's hard for me to play a snare any deeper than a 5.5 because the way I set up, and I set up kind of close, I want everything really close to me like a cockpit, the hoop would start, the bottom snare hoop would start eating into the bass drum hoops.
Don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's as far as I can get. But I tell you, man, that's just the tuned medium. It's a punch in the gut, it's a punch in the throat, and it's a punch in the nose at the same time.
So is there a secret to that tuning? Like,
I can't tell you.
Say medium tight bottom and super loose top and loose snares?
It's probably slightly looser bottom head than I did in the past because I normally had that pretty tight. So it's probably kind of medium there and medium in the top. And Mark Petrocelli, my drum tech, has it really dialed in. I check the drums every day, even though I don't need to. But it still just makes me feel nice. It's just like, okay. And that's generally how I check.
Nice.
But every now and then I'll hit the snare or I'll say something that, like there was a weird frequency in the room. So, I had to tune the 16-inch floor tom a little higher or something like that. But it's really consistent from night to night. So I hit the drum, and it's one of the funny things is it doesn't always sound immaculate to the naked ear, but you hear it in here,
Yeah.
you hear it through the console, you hear it in the house, and it's just the snare drum of doom.
Massive. Yeah. Are you sentimental about any of your instruments, your cymbals, drums, old drums?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't be, and it's funny because my father wasn't. My father was a drummer, and he viewed the drums as tools to do a job, and the way that you have tools in your toolbox or whatever, your tool chest. And when I started collecting, my dad would say, Todd, the idea is to make money with the drums, not spend all your money on the drums.
You didn't take that advice, did you?
No, that one didn't really take. But, it's funny, this also involves my father because, growing up in Chicago, and my dad was also a doctor, and he was at the Pittsfield building on 55 East Washington Street. You walk up to Wabash, and boom, there was Frank's Drum Shop and Drums Limited. And so my dad worked half days on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so a lot of times I'd go down, just hang out at his office as a kid. I mean, I'm talking a little kid. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go to Frank's or Drums Limited. And both of those were, these old-timey, you get in the elevator, and there's, like a guy from a David Lynch movie, a little old guy with a red hat that would, work the elevator, and it was, straight out of a David Lynch movie. But you get up to, the fourth or fifth floor or whatever it was, and the elevator doors would open, and it was floor-to-ceiling drums.
Wow.
And cymbals and chimes and gongs and timpani, and it was the Willy Wonka effect. You there's the chocolate river and the gumdrop forest, and it would take your breath away every time. And if I were to psychoanalyze myself, I think I wanted to create an environment like that in my studio, that every time I walk in there, it takes your breath away. It's floor-to-ceiling drums all the way around. Mm-hmm. Because that, to me, that's like a holy place. That's a temple. That's something that it takes your breath away. And if for some reason I'm playing and something feels stagnant or uninspired, swap out a snare drum, put on a different pair of hi-hats, put two 17-inch crashes on your hi-hats, and now you're playing, you're playing something you didn't know you were going to play. Or I'll go in there and, this could be jazz kit day. I sit down at the little jazz kit, and this is, the mojo's here today. So it should be that when I'm in my studio, that I'm never bored, it's never stagnant. There's always something to inspire me and take me down a road that I didn't know I was going to be on that day.
Fantastic. Well, what's new for you? I know you just finished the summer tour with STYX, so what's next?
Well, we're working the new record, Circling from Above. The Finally George record, Painter, just came out. I have another record with called Unicorn Umbrellas with Beat Zimmerman and Michael Sadler from Saga. So if you like Saga, he's singing on that whole record.
Cool.
And the next Altiforma record is going to be out called Trajectory. That's another banger with Antoine Fafard and J.K. Harrison. So I have a couple of records coming out. I just recorded 5 or 6 more for the next Legacy Pilots record. And Marco Miniman and I always share the drum duties on that.
I didn't know that.
So that will probably be coming out in 26.
You're going to the UK drum show too, right?
Going to the UK drum show.
Masterclasses over there?
Masterclasses up in Glasgow, doing 2 nights there, and playing in Liverpool. And I'm looking forward to that. It's been I did the back when it was called the London Drum Show. I did that in 2014.
In the Docklands.
So 11 years ago. So I'm looking forward to being back.
Yeah, good. So just a few questions to wrap up here. Who would you like to perform with if you had the chance?
Living or dead? No.
Doesn't matter.
Who would I like to perform with? Well, it's a hard question to answer because anything that's ever happened to me, I couldn't have imagined or authored. So it's kind of crazy when I think about this kid from the North Shore of Chicago and the experiences that I've had. It's easy to say, oh, I'd love to play with Paul McCartney and The Who and Genesis. And I just want to hand in good work.
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I like about this business is I don't know what's going to happen or where things are going to come from, but all of a sudden something will float to me, and I get to have that experience. So I just want to keep doing that. You know, it's very easy to list famous musicians that changed the world that you like to work with, but I just want to keep playing good music with good musicians, and that is the type of thing that I hope to conjure.
Yeah.
Those good things, and the surprise email and the surprise phone call of just playing good music that makes me work for it and be on my toes and makes me think, because what I don't have the Vinnie Colaiuta ability just to, like, you know, crap Mona Lisas on command. I have to work for my stuff. You know, I have to work hard. So I enjoy when I have the luxury of time, which I often do being on the road, is someone will say, I want you to play on the record. Here's 5 songs, here's 10 songs, whatever. And I will listen to that music in the shower, brushing my teeth, on an airplane. I'll go home, you know, just record some ideas myself, analyze it, and go back. So when it comes time for the recording session, I have a pretty clear vision of what I want to say in this piece of music, and then the communication with the artist or producer is paramount, because I don't want to spend all this time and have them go, well, no, that's not what we want. You know, What type of snare drum sound do you want? Is it okay if I change this? Is there anything on your demo that you would be sad if I didn't do? If there's a fill that has to be that, because a lot of times you get programming that's pretty elaborate. Certainly from Antoine Fafard. Sometimes I'm like, why do you need your programming so cool? What do you need me for? So that's what I want to do. I just want to keep doing that and recording cool music with cool people.
Well, the best gear seems to find you. Is there any new gadgets that we should that you found that we should keep our eye out for?
Well, it's hard to say, because I mean, this last year has been such a joy in the recording studio and live with my new Sonar SQ2s, with the new cymbal line, both the red lights and the spotlights. I've been with Remo forever, Audix since 2007. There's one thing I really love from two, and it's jewelry, but the stick holders from Artisan Customs and the drum waiter from Kentville Drums, Australia. It kind of makes me smile to have these luxury wood accoutrements that kind of match the drum kit, that hold your drink, your phone, your watch, your keys. You know, if all I did was playing clubs and ballrooms and weddings, I'd still have the drum waiter, because I've stepped on a watch. I've broken a phone, because the drummers, we take our wallets and our keys and we throw them on the ground. There's this little thing coming up the stand that holds all of that for you right there. And I just think that's one of the coolest things in the world.
That's great, man. Well, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it.
What a
Thank you
pleasure,
to
man.
Sweetwater for having us and hosting us, and thanks for watching, everybody.